Lately, in the haul videos where I've showed off my new journaling supplies, I've been getting more and more requests to write out some test swatches in a separate video. So today I thought I would do that with some of my favorite pens, markers, and highlighters at the moment. These have been my go-tos in my traveler's notebooks and bullet journal lately, so if you're looking to expand your collection of writing utensils, I hope this is interesting and helpful to you. Alright, so the paper that I'm using today is a Webster's Pages Traveler's Notebook, and it's lined. I don't use the lined ones super often, so I figured that this would be a good opportunity to use it. So I'm going to go through a bunch of the different pens that I love and that I use most often, and I'm going to test them out for you, and then maybe that'll help you if you're deciding which pens to buy. So starting out right at the top, this is the pen that I use most often. It is the uni-ball Signo. It's the .38 tip. It's very, very fine. I really like it. I use it for bullet journaling and for traveler's notebook journaling, and anytime I need a really fine line, I always end up going back to this one. It's lasted me a pretty long time so far, and I'm really happy with it, and I actually got it in a bunch of different colors. I'm not sure what the colors are called because a lot of this is in Japanese, but I will test them out for you anyway. There's this really lovely red burgundy wine color, also in the .38 tip. I'm just going to call it wine. And then I've got this blue one as well. Now, even though these are all the .38 tip, I feel like the red one is a little bit thicker. It ends up coming out a little thicker than the others. The blue seems like the thinnest to me when I'm writing with it. I don't know why that is. I've also tested this Juice Up pen. It's the 04 tip, and I really like this one as well. I've been using the uni-ball Signo more often than I use the Juice Up, but I still like it. I feel like the ink isn't as black as it is in the uni-ball Signo, but it's pretty nice. As you can see here, it blipped a little bit, but I think it's pretty okay. I think it's a good backup if my uni-ball Signo runs out of ink and I have to wait for some new ones to come in the mail. And if I don't need a really fine tip, just for regular writing around the house, shopping lists, things like that, I tend to go for the Pilot G2 in the 07 tip. And these are really easy to find and they're really inexpensive, so I just have a lot of them around the house. And maybe that'll also give you an idea of just how thin those first three pens were. So now I'm going to test out some of my felt tip pens. I tend to only really use these for more artistic things like inking drawings and maybe for my travel journals as well if I want it to look a little bit messier. I really like the neat look of the gel pens, but felt tip pens can be really great for other things as well. Before Tombow sent me these, I actually was mostly using the Micron, which is very popular. I see a lot of artists using them, but I found that these kind of ran out of ink really quickly. They looked okay for a while, but it's just annoying for me to have to keep buying more pens. So I've been really happy with the Tombow mono drawing pens, and I am going to test them out for you. These came in a pack with 3 different sizes, and I use them all for different things really, but I like them quite a bit. So this first one is the 01 size. It's really, really nice and thin. The tip is super fine, but it also doesn't feel like it's gonna break off the end of the pen, so I found that it's pretty sturdy in that regard. And now I'm gonna show you the 03 size just for comparison. So as you can see, that's quite a bit thicker, and then the same thing happens when you go up to the 05. This is a bigger one. And I think I've had a pretty similar experience to a lot of people who write and draw with pen on paper very often, which is that my handwriting looks a lot neater when the pen is really fine, and so I tend to write with the finer ones more often. But sometimes if I'm doing some lettering or something that requires me to have a larger, thicker line, I'll go for that 5. I don't really use it very often compared to the other two. And then this is a brush pen that I use pretty often. It's a Prismacolor Premier brush pen. It came in a pack of a bunch of different felt tip pens, and this was my first kind of foray into brush lettering. I tend to do the fake brush lettering more than the real stuff, but I've been enjoying learning how to write with this, and I'm not super great at it yet, but I'm getting practice. I've been enjoying this like kind of frilly looking capitals. But I do like the look of them. I like that you can get a fair amount of line variation between the thin lines and the thick lines, and I hope to practice that more so that it looks better over time. It's also really hard to write with this on such a small line. I feel like it looks better when I write a little bit bigger. And in case you want a comparison with the Pigma Microns, these are great too, but like I said, I felt like they ran out of ink a lot quicker than the Tombows. So now that I'm kind of comparing these side by side, I feel like I like the look of the Micron a little bit better than the Tombows. The Tombow looks a little messier when I'm writing with it. So maybe I will end up giving those Microns a second chance. They look a lot cleaner and crisper in their lines and even a little bit darker with the black ink. And also these were the ones that seemed like they were running out of ink, so maybe they weren't. Maybe they're just a little less consistent. But it's turning out that this is actually a helpful exercise for me as well. So my next category is metallic and sparkly gel pens, and I don't have very many of these. I don't use them super often, but it's nice to have a little bit of color and detail when I'm doing a more artistic journaling style. I picked out this broad uni-ball Signo in a metallic gold, and I thought that it would be kind of fun to add a little metallic gold element to some of my journaling, and so I'm going to test this out. And I really like the way that this gold comes out. It's nice and metallic, it's got a little bit of shimmer, it's mostly just shiny, and it's not too yellow. It's like a good gold, I feel like. One problem that I do have with this pen is that if I don't use it for a while, it comes out orange, and so I kind of have to scribble it onto a scrap piece of paper first. So here's kind of an example of that. This is what I had to scribble before I tested it out just now. It came out kind of a very dark orange and then slowly changed into the gold that I know and love. So I feel like it's kind of annoying that this pen does that, but it may just be that it needs to be mixed up and you kind of have to work with it to get it to look the way you want it to. You can even see a little bit inside the pen that it's starting to turn orange in some places. So hopefully the whole thing won't turn orange over time. It may just be something that is worth buying if you use it a lot, but if you only use it every once in a while, it's just more annoying than it's worth. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who's having this problem with this pen, but it's kind of unfortunate because I really, really like it when it does work. I also have this exact pen in white. Obviously it won't show up on the white paper, so I'm going to test it on a scrap piece of craft paper instead. So if you are looking for a white gel pen, this is kind of the one that I researched the most and that people seemed to like the most. And I like it too. Sometimes I have to write over something a couple times to get it to be completely opaque. But once you do get it going, it really does look quite nice. I especially like the way it looks on this craft paper. I have a traveler's notebook that has paper like this, and it looks really cool to have a couple little white details mixed in with the black and the gold. And then I have one Jelly Roll pen. I had so many of these when I was a kid. They were really popular in the 90s. I don't actually know the name of this color, but it has a little shooting star on it, and so I think you can probably match that up with their different lines of different kinds of metallics and brights and pastels, and they have so many of these, so that's why I'm kind of surprised that it's the only one I've managed to acquire so far. But it's a really beautiful shimmery blue. It's kind of subtle. It's a nice thick line, and as you can see there, it's a really pretty color. Now, right at the bottom of the page here, I'm going to test out some of these Tombow dual brush pens. These are super popular, but honestly, I'm not very good at using them yet. I haven't practiced them a ton, but I hope that eventually I'll get better at using them. They look so cool when brush letterers and other artists are using them on Instagram, and I was kind of jealous, so I bought some. But I think there's a bit of a learning curve with them. As named, they each have two tips. There's this big, thick brush pen on one end, and then the other end is a fine tip. Maybe it's that I just picked some really light colors, so... Oh, that is not an I, that's a U. Silly Lauren. Now it looks like it says dial. Okay, there we go. Nobody's perfect, right? And then it's 243 is that number. And then your brush pen, you can get a really thick line or a really thin line. Then I have this nice lavender as well. And that is number 620. Until I get better at using the brush end, I've been using the fine tip end more often, but it's quite nice that it has both. So now I'm going to turn the page and test out probably my favorite markers that I've ever bought. They are the Zebra Mild Liners, and I probably will keep buying these because I love them so much. I think the color choices are just so beautiful. These are not your average fluorescent yellow highlighters, and they're really nice to write with. They have two different tips. The regular end is a chisel tip, so it's like your traditional highlighter. You can highlight. But this is the end that I use, and I love these. This is just a regular pointy marker tip, and I use that one the most. I use it for writing, I use it for drawing lines, I use it to fill in little boxes on my bullet journal. I just I love these so much, and I love all the colors I have, and I'm probably gonna get some more. Unfortunately, I do not know the names of the specific colors that I have, but you can look online, and I'm going to link to all of these pens in the video description below, and they come in all kinds of different sets, so just choose the colors that speak to you the most. I really love that they're not super bright. I just think they're beautiful. So these are not a fine tip. These are more for drawing, filling in blocks of color. But as you can see, it's like a really nice sheer wash of color, and I just think it's so beautiful. So this is just kind of a really lovely purple. That's the finer end, and then you have the chisel tip highlighter end. This is one of the two blues that I have, and it actually comes out pretty dark once you write with it. It's a bit darker than the cap. Here's the other blue that I use pretty often, and I think this one is quite lovely. It has a little tint of green in it, which I love. And then there's this lovely light green. Green is my favorite color, and I really like this. It's like a grassy lime green, which I enjoy. This is a really pretty yellow. It's just so warm and nice and so different from your traditional yellow fluorescent highlighter. There's this beautiful reddish pink. I really, really like this. I usually prefer cool colors, but I really like this particular pink. And then this one, I didn't think I would love this gray as much as I do, but I end up using it more than the colors sometimes. It's just such a nice gray. I just think it's really lovely. And as you can see, you have to keep the highlighter moving or you get these little lines, but they don't really bother me that much. I think they have some nice texture, and they almost have this kind of watercolor quality to them when they're dried, and I just think that they're super lovely. And there you have it. Those are all of the pens that I find myself using most often. I really like a lot of these, and I hope that this information was helpful to you. Out of all of them, the ones that I would recommend the most are these Zebra mild liners, and I pretty much exclusively use that black uni-ball Signo in my daily traveler's notebook. I love the way that they make my handwriting look, and I'm just a big fan of this pen. I hope that you enjoyed this and that it was interesting or helpful to you, and let me know if you'd like me to test out any more of my art supplies for you. So those are the tools I've been writing with in my journals lately. What are your go-to brands and tools for writing and drawing? The funny thing about this kind of stuff is I feel like I'm always excited to try out new ones, even when I'm reasonably happy with what I've got. There's just something about new office supplies that makes me excited to work and create. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.